Yellowstone is not the real danger as a supervolcano. This supervolcano in California is what we're supposed to watch out for. As we know, the west coast on the Walker Lane fault system, a series of volcanoes are considered high threat. But this one is considered very high threat. It's the Long Valley Caldera supervolcano. This is a picture of it by USGS. It's west of between San Francisco and Los Angeles. It's about 100 miles north of Ridgecrest, and it's considered very high threat. It's a 20-mile long valley caldera in eastern California. It's one of the world's largest volcanic calderas. It's a supervolcano measuring about 10 miles in width, and it's up to 3,000 feet deep as well. Very few people know about this supervolcano. It's east of the central Sierra Nevada range, and it is a potentially greater threat than Yellowstone. Now, we just had a very surprising quake development in Yellowstone. A 6.5 striking at a 10-kilometer depth is just west of Yellowstone, about 190 miles. It did shake the whole of the Yellowstone area very intensely, and it has been felt even up to Seattle. Over 30,000 people reported to USGS having felt it. And we've been having, after that, a 4.6 and 3.6, 3.5, 3.3, 3.4, and then a 4.4, and they're still ongoing. These quakes there are a surprise, and they're still ongoing. 4.4, then we had a 3.3, and I'll leave links for you so you can watch, but they're still ongoing. So after the threes, we had a surprise 4.4 as well. And that 6.5, of course, shook everything. Now, we also had the 5.7 in a few days before that in Salt Lake City, Utah. And the quake swarm in Salt Lake City is still ongoing. And we have the 5 magnitude in northwest Texas that shook Salt Lake City from that shaking as well. So we've had a couple of 5s and 6s, and now we have a 6.5. And this is in an area of the mantle plume that comes from Baja and feeds through Utah and up to Yellowstone. That magma plume also stretches halfway towards the coast, from Yellowstone towards the coast, and it sits right under where we're having our quake swarm around Boise, Idaho. Okay, and most of the I think most of the reports for the shaking are coming from there. So after the 2.9, 2.6 quakes that we had earlier, before the 6.5, they shook the northwest corner of Yellowstone, and now we have this shaking. This is a huge enough quake for USGS to give us an announcement. I guess tomorrow morning they'll study it and they'll come back to us about what's going on there. But we have to keep in mind that we do have magma under there. We do have that mantle plume sitting under there. So this mantle plume that goes from Baja into Yellowstone, that's the eastern arm of it. It's like a big Y. The eastern arm goes through Utah and into Yellowstone, the eastern arm, and the western arm goes into the Salton Sea, Ridgecrest Coastal Volcanic Field, Long Valley Caldera supervolcano, and feeds up the other Lassen Peak and all the other western towards the Cascadia Arc. Walker Lane is just east of San Andreas Fault. The San Andreas Fault takes up 75% of the subduction pressure, and the Walker Lane takes up the other 25%. And most of the high threat volcanoes, including Long Valley Caldera, sits on the Walker Lane fault system. So very few people know about this, but a study published last August in the journal Geoscience World found evidence of ground deformation at the supervolcano. We know that it's also had an increased quake swarm since the Ridgecrest earthquake, just like Yellowstone has. And that's nothing new. That's what happened in 1999 when last time they had the 7.1 Ridgecrest earthquake. Yellowstone and Long Valley also had quake swarms there as well. So, geologists who led the study found ongoing uplifts, and they say that suggests new magma may have intruded into the reservoir of Long Valley caldera since at least 1978. And the uplift could be evidence of moving molten rock or the crystallization of material deep under the ground there. The study says this: despite 40 years of diverse investigations, the presence of large volumes of melt in Long Valley's magma reservoir remain unresolved. Large volumes of melt in the magma reservoir of Long Valley remain unresolved. I mean, there's basically say they don't know where the presence is coming. Well, we know it's coming from Baja. Okay, they've told us that already. Now, scientists estimate the Long Valley caldera reservoir contains considerable qualities of melt, likely greater than 240 cubic miles. That's 1,000 cubic kilometers. That's enough to make it a super eruption. About 27% of this melt could not be hot enough to be scorching liquid rock. And according to the United States Geological Survey, the USGS, Long Valley last erupted about 100,000 years ago. And as of now, the caldera is thermally active, with a number of hot springs and fumaroles dotting its landscapes, a lot like Yellowstone. But unlike Yellowstone, we know that Long Valley caldera has a geothermal plant there. Now, today, it's thermally active. Now, by comparison to Yellowstone, the volcano does not stop there because Long Valley could potentially be as devastating if it were to erupt. It could potentially be as devastating if it were to erupt. Yellowstone's last caldera-forming eruption, the super eruption, was 640,000 years ago, as we said, and the blast formed that 35-mile by 50-mile caldera that we know that is there today, and there's a lake sitting on part of that, but there is no way for USGS scientists to predict whether such an eruption will occur again in the future. The odds that the California supervolcano Long Valley erupting appears to be less than 1% per year. And USGS said increased volcanic unrest, including earthquake swarms, ground deformation, and carbon dioxide gas emissions in Long Valley area since 1980 have increased. They increase the chance of eruption occurring in the near future, but scientists still lack adequate data to calculate by how much. So, of course, volcanoes are, you can't really tell. You can't predict. So they are monitoring the activities, of course, and volcanic unrest and some other large volcanic systems persisted for decades or centuries without an eruption. But since volcanic unrest can escalate to an eruption quickly, such as like in a few weeks or days or less, USGS scientists, of course, are monitoring this very closely. And the odds of Long Valley eruption are up roughly equivalent to the yearly odds of magnitude 8 earthquakes striking along the San Andreas Fault line in California. So Long Valley is one of the 3 supervolcanoes in North America alongside Yellowstone and Valles Caldera in New Mexico. And this is according to Express UK, and now by Sebastian Ketley, and now the volcano discovery. Long Valley volcano, its status is normal, 1 out of 5. And the Long Valley volcano eruptions 111,000 to 57,000 years ago, the formation of Mammoth Mountain. And we've had earthquakes even today, although they were minor. So the caldera, large 17 by 32 kilometer Long Valley caldera east of central Sierra Nevada range in California, the result of a giant explosive eruption that happened about 760,000 years ago and formed the widespread voluminous Bishop Tuff. The caldera has been showing unrest in recent years in the form of deformation of the caldera floor and earthquake swarms. It contains numerous hot springs and fumaroles. In order to better study and monitor the caldera and possible future further changes, USGS established the Long Valley Observatory. The Bishop Tuff eruption and the formation of Long Valley caldera 760,000 years ago actively continued in the central part of the caldera to form a lava dome. Smaller explosive eruptions of rhyodacite pumice occurred as well from outer ring fracture vents. The last activity was about 50,000 years ago. In its early history, the caldera contained a large lake where the new lava dome formed an island. Beach deposits can be seen on the caldera walls today. Later, the lake drained through the Owens River Gorge. The younger Inyo craters overlap the caldera on the northwest but are chemically and tectonically distinct from Long Valley magmatic system. And as we said, it's about 100 miles north of Ridgecrest. Now, the long-term trends: earthquake activity at Long Valley caldera remains low since the mid-1999. That's when the 7.1 took place at Ridgecrest, by the way. Ridgecrest. Average just 5 to 10 earthquakes per day, with magnitudes less than 2, and occasionally even magnitude 3. The deformation trend, renewed uplift, and the resurgent dome that began in early 2002 ended in early 2003, largely offsetting the 2 centimeter of subsidence that accumulated from the early 1999. As we said, that was the Ridgecrest 7.1 earthquake, through the end of 2001. Okay, so this resurgent dome has since shown minor fluctuations in uplift and subsidence, but remains roughly 80 centimeters higher than in the late 1970s. Carbon dioxide trends: the diffuse carbon dioxide gas flux in the Horseshoe Lake tree kill area has shown little change from the relative high levels of 50 to 150 tons per day sustained for the past several years. And as we said before, USGS has this rated as a very high threat volcano. Long Valley Caldera Supervolcano in California, north of Ridgecrest. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.